welcome back. Thank you for watching those ads. We're into Frozen Temple for the first semifinal. Second match of the day, that's where I was going with that. It's going to be Spazymazy versus Lillekanin. Spazymazy just taking out Lillekanin's teammates, Poppy Joe, in a very different matchup, I suppose, but the way that Lillekanin plays Terran, and I'm mostly thinking about the mech, by the way, can sometimes not be so different than facing Protoss. I guess, of course, you never want to go Banelings against mech. That's the biggest difference. Anyway, this does turn things around, though. Just in general, the matchup goes from the Zerg really having a lot of control to usually the Terran having a lot of control, being the aggressors, you know, and it's the Zerg defending until infestors are high or something like that. We know how it goes back and forth. With Lillekanin, though, it goes in his control even more so because he does a lot of weird things, cheesy and macro-wise. So we gotta see what he's planning here on Frozen Temple first and foremost. In the bottom right, alright then, is the green Terran, Lillekanin. In the top left, as the teal Zerg, it's Spazymazy. Thank you to Saw Monk, TSA Monk, for the 18-month resub. That's a long time. Will both semis be casted? Yes. Casted is not a word, though. The more you know. Woo! Yeah, it's, I don't know why it's not, though. That's one of those words that, like, now that, when I learned that it wasn't a word, I could kind of see, like, the wrong feeling whenever I said casted. You know, just that feeling, you know, you get when you know that English is wrong. But I don't know why it would be wrong. Like, what's wrong with adding the past tense usual way of doing things for cast? I don't get it. Anyway. Or I guess in the way that you were using it, that was actually future. Well, this is far more important than grammar studies. Maybe. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think you should be taught StarCraft 2 over grammar, but we're all out of school, right? Totally. This is going to be a 4-ax, I do believe. Lillekanin, like I said, you know, he's a cheesy guy sometimes. Sometimes he's a mech player. Sometimes it's just weird something proxied or another. Here it is triple proxy Reaper, but with one more barracks at home. Which is pretty individual to Lillekanin. Like, this is something that he likes to do and not really anyone else. 3-ax Reaper on Frozen Temple makes a lot of sense. That's not surprising at all, but just the fact that it's actually 4-ax and 3 of them are proxied is the one that's a little odd. Thank you to Astro Archer for the 7-month resub. So it seems like Spazymazy knows the deal with this, alright? He already got Lings in the way, he's got Queens about to pop out, a Roachwarn's already on the way, but the trick to Reapers, especially committed Reapers, that is more than 2 barracks, and in this case more than 3 barracks, is that it can at any point snowball if you control your units incorrectly. Yes, the first plan is to get to the right units, but then the second plan is to not let the Reapers outposition you, which is mostly about this ramp. So right now they can do a lot of things against the slow Lings, and Spazymazy's not going to be going for speedlings. You know, that's basically been figured out to be the best way to deal with this if you're having trouble, I guess, in your own games, is to skip speed and go for those roaches. But anyway, once the Ravagers are out, once the Queen number is grown, Lillekanin, you know, whether he has 8 or 15 Reapers, is going to have maybe a bit of a tough time, unless he can get those grenades in really good positions, and that's a lot to do with the ramp. We'll see if he even loses any of his Reapers, because that's also going to be a very important factor in this game. You lose 1 Reaper early on, that's devastating. You lose 1 Reaper when you have 12, that's not really so devastating. Spazymazy, though, in a similar fashion, losing Roaches before they turn into Ravagers is pretty devastating. Letting his Ravagers get sniped because they don't have a lot of health is also pretty devastating. And you just can't let these things happen. It's a very, like, either way it could snowball, but it's probably a lot more likely that the Reapers will snowball. And the grenades don't even need the ramp right there. They made it like 4 of them in a row. A lot of damage. Spazymazy can't even touch the Reapers, and that's why you need more than 1 Ravager. Is like, okay, that one actually got a snipe, which was just fortunate there. Lillekanin probably could have sent that Reaper to the back. But when you have 3 Ravagers, that's when you start just really sniping Reapers left and right, and they can't do necessarily anything about it if they're going to try and get damage in. Thank you to Higgins for the 16-month resub, and Astro Archer for the 7-month resub. Hatchery shouldn't be... I don't think you have to be scared of the hatchery going down as Spazymazy, but that is something to consider later on if you're stuck on the high ground, for instance. But God, these grenades, I feel like these grenades are sending the roaches farther than ever before. Some of these are really good. The queens keep bulking up, and a lot of them are almost dead. They almost have transfuses. Every single one of them almost has a transfuse. He should probably use it, I was going to say, yeah, on the Ravagers if they get too low. But queens are also very helpful, so it's just basically keeping anything alive here. I don't know how these SCVs got on the high ground, but that's going to be surprisingly important. That's going to provide high ground vision, when otherwise you would have no idea what's going on up there, or what's coming down. Spazymazy has to tap out. GG. Lillekanin takes game number 1. Cheesy, cheesy, cheesy. Where's Ruffy? He has a job. It's Wednesday. He's at his job. Don't know how the maps are being chosen here, but that was kind of... If Spazymazy had anything to say about the maps, that was his fault for letting Frozen Temple through. Just throwing it out there. I figured these guys would have played a little bit on ladder, being, I guess, on the European ladder altogether and whatnot, but maybe not. Maybe Spazymazy really doesn't know anything about Lillekanin, which is unfortunate for him. I wouldn't say that's the case, though, because he did go for the counter build so smoothly. It wasn't like he was surprised, but he was unable to control it correctly. Next map's Frost. Believe it or not, another map where Lillekanin could triple Reaper. Probably not proxied, though. Theo has advanced 2-0 over Emperor M and is waiting for Orion versus Space Marine. That's gonna have to wait for this semifinal to finish anyway. But if Lillekanin cheeses again and wins with it, then we could be waiting for the next semifinal to even be ready to go. Oh, there you go. Ready, Freddy. Dyed her hair back? No. My roots have grown out like hair does, and in a ponytail, my roots are the only thing showing when I look directly at a camera. That's how 3 dimensions work. Anyway. In the top left on Frost, already up 1, it is the green Terran Lillekanin. In the bottom left as the blue Zerg, nope, teal Zerg, it is Spazymazy. That was weird. Thought I heard something. Papa Mitch, thank you for the 28-month resub. Love the ZG cast. Well, that's fortunate, because you've had a lot of that lately. Oh, it does smell weird in my room. I feel like one of my cats farted or something. And Apollo's the only one here, so... Apollo... God. That cat, am I right? He's crazy. He's actually just sleeping in his hammock. Well, no 3 Racks Reaper here. It was really fun to watch, I think... Who was it? Who did it? Damn. Was it Bjorn? Maybe. Was it Reality? It might have been Reality. I think it was Reality against Symbol. It was fun to watch that occur, but it is not very popular at all to do it on a 4-player spawn. The problem isn't necessarily that it's 4-player spawn and that you might not scout correctly first. The problem really is there's not a lot of abusive ledges on Frost. So when you finally get over here, it's not that much to abuse. And then, of course, there's the distance of rallying that also affects it. So Lillekanin is going to be going for a macro game, at least for now. 1 Rax Expand. But I was going to say, this could still turn into a Hellbat all-in. This could still turn into a Blue Flame attack. I mean, this guy has weird builds that usually lead into mech. Sometimes he plays the good old standard bio, but... We'll see if Spazymazy gets the correct scouting on whatever it is. So his Overlord's finally making his way over here, or I guess it's actually stopped. I don't know if it's a great place to stop, but he's chancing it. He's chancing that there was not going to be any Marines. And another one is going off to the right side. Reaper gets in the main base, he even gets a grenade off in the mineral line. Not usually what's allowed to happen. You really usually don't get anything done with this Reaper except minimal scouting and maybe a ling or 2, but gets in there, gets out, can go back another day. There's the second factory, so it is going to be the Blue Flame. Blue Flame. And this is something that Spazymazy is going to need to scout. The good news is, as he gets Overlord speed, he probably will scout it, but also that, you know, there's kind of a... I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can deal with Blue Flame Hellion or Mass Hellions, regardless of their color of their flame. Is that walls, obviously, are something they cannot deal with, and Frost has a pretty narrow choke for its natural. It really is about killing drones and lings, so if you get roaches that provide a pseudo wall, that also is very helpful. If you scout this and don't saturate your 3rd base, you don't risk losing drones, and then you can wait for the roaches to pile on up, you know? And take care of the Hellions after that. But maybe I spoke too soon. I mean, he did... Oh, it's gonna be a Cyclone build. Alright, so... Of course, Blue Flame Hellion can still happen, but the new thing to do is Cyclones, and I kind of forgot about that. Oh no, it is Blue Flame Hellions. Well, damn it, Lillekanin. Choose one weird thing to do and stick with it. So the Cyclone might be just to take care of the Overlord, which would be kind of funny, because the Marine did the same thing. A surprising number of lings get in here, and despite going for Hellions, Lillekanin is going to lose all of his SCVs in the natural. That is very odd. That was not supposed to happen at all, and he's not bringing the Hellions back either. I guess he sees all of the attack units are on the attack, so he's going to go ahead and try and roast some drones, get some revenge early on here. Not a bad shot to start things off, but lings are already popping, and even just lings touching the Hellions can stop them from doing any damage whatsoever, actually. But not enough lings came out here, and then they got trapped in a mineral line, so 2 Hellions still alive. There are the rest of the lings. There it goes. And 6 drones for, what, 7 SCVs? And a mule, which was pretty big, but he'll live. Blue Flame is almost done, and despite going for a roach warren, we don't have any roaches. And, like, if he pushes out with the Hellions, and you're building the roaches, that's still a problem for the Zerg player. Supply box. So I'm a little worried for Spazymazy. He's just investing into roach speed now. Lillekanin, of course, not looking so great. He had not only SCVs die, but then his SCV production was halted from at least 1 command center. So that's a pretty big deal. Now we have a couple of roaches on the way. These drones would be forfeit, but aren't exactly the prime target for Lillekanin if he wants to take a lead in this game, or even bring it back after a little scuffle right there. The Cyclones look very funny, but I guess you're supposed to take care of the roaches or the queens that support the lings, as of course the Hellions will take care of the lings. It's kind of like the first combo people tried with Cyclones, but it just eventually couldn't work against the large amount of numbers that Zerg could get. You know, this is great against lings and roaches, but it's not so great against 50 lings and 20 roaches, you know what I mean? So it is something that's definitely micro, relying a lot on micro. And so far it's working out. mind you. I mean, Spazymazy can't drone on this space. Anytime he pushes out a little too far, the Cyclones risk locking on to either the Ravager or the Queens. The Roaches at this point, their number's growing. It's not so big of a deal. With only 2 Cyclones, but... yeah, Queens are so important. They go down. Oh, probably could use a scan there. But with only 2 orbitals, this third one not quite ready to go. I guess he didn't want to. This isn't doing direct damage, but it is certainly causing Spazymazy to freak out and build army before he's ready. So, you know, at 42 drones, you can't even saturate a third base, which he does have, and he would love to be using. So for him to go for Roach Hydra this quickly is really just turning into an all-in. A very odd, not great all-in that has a lot of tech, but not a lot of reinforcement power. Like, okay, I'll get a pretty good army, I suppose, but... can he reinforce it in time to really use it? Especially on a big map like Frost. I don't think he can. And the Hydras, I don't know... I mean, I guess with their range here, they might be able to catch some of these Hellions and Cyclones a little bit better. The Cyclones are doing a great job. Lillekanin gets production up. He's got a 3rd CC on the way finally. He's going to have double upgrades as well. It's going to be a little scary, you know? Once this army dies, which I think it eventually will, or maybe it'll retreat back home, he won't have a ton of units back at home to cover all 3 bases, and that's certainly scary. But let's not forget that Spazymazy, you know, is only just now getting 51 drones. Had he attacked, had he seen an opportunity, he would have had a decent army, but then maybe would not have been able to conquer his opponent and would have been only on a very low drone count, not very good at all. So he's going to take that time, build the drones, then go back into army making, and by that time, Lillekanin should have enough to deal with at least protecting his bases, you know, having tanks in good position with a high ground and SimCity and whatnot. I'm a little confused with the Bailey Nest, so I'd go ahead and check Spazymazy's vision, but of course he saw the 2 factories, and it's Lillekanin, so he must know that it's mech. Banelings are not help versus mech in the same way they're help versus Protoss. Protoss have a couple of really key light units like Sentries that are really great to hit Banelings on. Obviously Zealots, they can take a punch or 2, but they are still affected greatly by Banelings, so they're very useful to get there. Adepts, same deal. If they go Stalker or Immortal, okay, Banelings are the way to go, but they have those units. Banelings could be effective against Hellions, except that they should never be able to catch Hellions. And when it comes to Hellbats, they're still, I guess, okay against Hellbats, but, you know, they got the healing power in Hellbats now, and they do have a lot of health, so I don't really know if that's going to be the way to go. Not to mention that tanks with such extreme range should be shooting down Banelings, even if they're rolling. So there's just not a lot of reasons to go for Banelings against mech. And it's almost like he is placing a Protoss player right now. It's just like his mentality right here. Look, and he gets denied on a couple of harassment run-bys. Not gonna happen. Creep spread a little too far out. Some pretty damn good creep spread, I gotta say. Especially since his queens were usually on the front line. They could have risked not getting any creep spread whatsoever, but it's looking pretty good. 13 Banelings are gonna have speed. This barracks is gonna barely see the attack incoming. It is maybe just all about numbers here. 7 tanks is not a lot. Vikings looking very useful. I guess 8 tanks. But not really a lot of tanks covering this base, and if he tries to cover this, then they might not be able to cover each other, which is obviously very important as well. I think Lillekanin might just be broken here. Spazymazy's got too much going on, and again, the Banelings don't seem like they were too useful, but the rest of the army might just be useful enough. 4th base was cancelled, 18 SCVs went down, looks like he's going to hold on to the 3rd base, and Spazymazy is exactly rolling in money behind this, as he never did saturate this 4th base, only on 55 drones. Oh, about to be less now. But getting a denial on that base, killing a couple of tanks, is always great for the Zerg player against a mech player. Unfortunately, only killing 5 drones with a 20 there. Still, with mules, this is actually totally okay. But can Lillekanin clean up the army? That's the main question here. Tanks in good position are great, but they get pounced upon and they will die. Fortunately, I don't think Spazymazy has high ground vision, so these are really well placed. And a couple of Hellbats will provide the tiniest bit of a wall on the low grounds to continue abusing that. Going any farther, though, that's where things are getting tricky, and Lillekanin's going to have to take a long time to get his third back up and running. Helen's going to get a couple drones? It's not a bad use of them, but of course, Spazymazy, the reason that he's at an even supply right now is that he's banking so much for what is going to be a 20 Mutalisk transition. About 20, maybe 21 if you just wait a second. Like, that's extreme, and Lillekanin has no answer for it. He's not really wondering, I suppose. Now he sees, with the Hellbat drop, the Spire, he has to build Thors and Liberators and Widow Mines immediately. He needs all the anti-air he can get right now. He also needs to buy time, which the Hellbats are doing a little bit here. Alien's over there as well. 11 drones going down so far. He sees how many Mutalisks, and damn, he needs anti-air. Missile turrets, I guess, are already kind of set up, like one on each base, but it's 20 Mutalisk. That's not going to be enough, and I'm so surprised he's not making Widow Mines or Liberators to accompany these Thors. He's banking a little bit. He could make them, but he's just... he's not. He's trying to save his ground army, though. I don't think he can. Like, how are the Thors going to get over here? Mass repair going to go down on the tanks. Looks like with the tank volleys, he'll be able to take care of the ground army. A couple of Vikings helping out, but that is all of the tanks. All the tanks except this one up here that has tried to help out every single time, but just barely can't. The Thors are almost out, and had they been here, ready to go, Spazymazy probably just made a huge mistake, but they weren't quite ready to go. In the end, was it enough? The air, I'm surprised. The Vikings and the Liberators are still alive. Most of the Mutas have died down to 7 from that 20. And it looks like Lillekanin has held. Now he's mining out of his main. He's going to start mining on his natural, and he's going to be really hard to get a 4th base against a Zerg player who's already on 5. But Spazymazy, having been sub 60 drones, has never had that much of a bank, and isn't really reinforcing for a 3rd attack quite yet. So maybe Lillekanin, a couple more tanks, could get a forward planetary fortress, and if the planetary gets up and running, then I think Lillekanin has quite the stronghold to defend with. Bye, Liberator. Lillekanin can maybe get a Liberator over here, but I don't think he's thinking about it quite yet. One more Muta down. 4 Thors is unnecessary to take care of 5 Mutas, but they're coming on over. This planetary needs to start. It needs to get tanks around it, but I don't see very many. Nope, just Thors. Oh god, is that really all he has? Just Thors? Uh-oh. A single tank is trying to be a hella boss, man. This tank still wants to be a hella boss. I'm using taking out a gas geyser. That's actually kind of important. Alan's getting to another drone kill in here. They're keeping each other on very low, I see, worker count, but obviously Lillekanin getting a little bit lower. But that's a big sacrifice of Hydralisk. They were just Hydralisks, so they were going to go down very quickly to whether that was Thors or even Hellions, especially the tanks, and that brings them down to an even army supply. But Lillekanin needs to get this production of SCVs going back up. He's on 3 orbitals, and that's a decent amount of mules, but he should be producing 4 SCVs at a time. And that could quickly get him back up to a solid 45, and then he could probably stop there if he wanted. But ideally 60, as you also transfer your main somewhere. But Spazymazy is not going to let that happen too easily. I guess that was a supply depot up there. Hellions do go down. Hellion goes down to this base after he scans it. Is going to get a couple of drone kills. What's the total kill count? 64 for Spazymazy and 50 for Lillekanin. Really trading back and forth. Well, I've never seen this fight happen. Apparently the Viking wins. Well, that planetary is set up now, and he's almost back up to a decent SCV counts. 4 SCVs at a time. Goes by quick. Upgrades, by the way, something I have not noted, but have been continuing to grow for Lillekanin at the very least. 2-2 to just the 1, and that's not even a carapace, is pretty important. Oh, these banelings. Hey, they managed to get a tank. That was more impressive than I thought they'd be. But they wanted the SCVs. But yeah, the upgrade difference here is going to mean that every single tank shot, every single Thor shot is going to just obliterate the Hydralisk, but even the Roaches, if you would build any to protect them. And unless Spazymazy gets to a Hive, there's not much his basic army can do anymore. It's only 13 army supply up, and that's not going to be able to take on tanks well-positioned. And by well-positioned, I mean like literally anywhere close to where the Hydras are attacking. If these were the new Hydralisk, they'd be bouncing back and forth, left and right, microing like whatever and getting concaves, and it probably would be game over already, but they're not. This is not the balanced test mod. The army supplies even. Upgrades look fabulous for Lillekanin. He's scouting the extra bases, so at least he can try and harass a little bit. Liberators take care of that queen finally and get a couple of drones as well. And Lillekanin, I mean, I don't know if he'll feel too confident or if he should feel quite confident enough. Oh, this is very tricky. I really like that. That was clever. That was very clever. I don't know if he'll ever feel confident enough to really push out with his main army. You know, it's 130 supply is not exactly a lot of confidence, and he doesn't know what Spazymazy's supply looks like. He's probably guessing, but he doesn't really know. But if he would scan that main once again and see the Hive, speaking of that, and the Greater Spire, that would be a note to try and attack. Now, ideally, he also sees the army, and this is it. This is the army. And knows that he has a good attacking force, but again, he might not know that. He might think there's an entire, you know, subgroup of 30 roaches somewhere off to the right side, waiting to take care of him once he pushes out. But he does need to push out. Well, actually, it looks like he's gonna take on the Viking War. If he's gonna take on the Air War, then a second starport is probably gonna be necessary. Ah, there we go. Pushing out with some of his units, at least. You will have this very quick reinforcement point from 4th base to this base, and Spazymazy probably should just give it up. I think buying time to get to your Broodlords is much more important. Yeah, and you have all these bases. That's very hard for Lillekanin to harass if you got Hydralisk there. Might work out, +3 vehicle weapons is about to finish. That's pretty extreme. Only 1 upgrade for Spazymazy, and nothing for his air either. Oh, this is annoying. Lillekanin's gonna back off. The Broodlords were about ready to go, so that's probably the better way to play. Now Thor's in this mode, whatever this mode is called. Okay, well, whatever this mode is called. Here we go. High impact payload, that's right. They're gonna help versus the Broodlords. They're still not the automatic answer, and Vikings with their range is still going to be nicer, but they're gonna be able to help for once. Did Spazymazy leave any Corruptors? Just 4. He's gonna have 5 Corruptors and a handful of Hydralisks that aren't even here against 7 Vikings and the Thors. So Lillekanin should be winning this war, provided everything goes according to plan. Broodlord's trying to siege this up. We're actually going to be vulnerable, really. There's no Vipers here, there's no Fungals threatening, there's no Queens to help out, and the attack to the top side just doesn't work out at all with the Hydralisk. And Lillekanin absolutely is going to win this, and once he's won against the Corruptors, the Broodlords will go down very quickly after that. 12 SCVs go down in the process, but Lillekanin now on 5 bases can reproduce that very quickly. More Thors are on the way, as I guess he thinks he's going to be more into that air mech, or into the air game, because he's going to be going air mech. It's actually trying to flood with Lings here. Surprisingly not a bad idea. If you could get like 100 Lings that are well upgraded, they can do something against tanks and just Thors, but there's not enough Lings here available for Spazymazy. They're not upgraded at all against a very well upgraded mech, and now the army's also clumping up, so the Lings probably would not be able to take this out regardless. That's gonna be just about game. Spazymazy feeling probably not so great since he has so many bases mining, but these bases, you know, they were kind of slow. He expanded basically always 1 expansion ahead of Lillekanin, which isn't terrible for a Zerg player, but it's not quite the same thing as having that huge bank and boundless or boundless options of tech transitions and whatnot. Nah, he really only had that one thing, which is the Hydras pushing forward. Tried to get to Broodlord, it was too late, it was too little, and Lillekanin has won this game. A lot through just defending, but also by attacking right when he tried to transition to the Broodlords. Tanks are mostly down. Nope, 4 of them siege up. Thor's starting to get torn down here, and the Vikings are forced to land, but those upgrades, I feel... Damn. GG. Thank you to Papa Mitch, by the way, for the 28-month resub. Did I do that already? I feel like I did. But I feel like 28 months is not what I said. I might have said 8 months on accident. Let's check the bracket real quick. Orion and Space Marine have not been updated. I don't know if they're really still playing though, so that'll be the next semifinal we get into. Lillekanin advances to the finals, and we'll be facing the winner of Theo and whoever his opponent is, so. Get to that as soon as it's ready. Could be a couple of minutes. See you guys whenever.